Welcome to Identity Unboxed, where we provide mentorship and promote representation for Black professionals in the advancement of the Black community.
We are seeking guidance from exceptional Black leaders, scholars, and professionals with expertise in their respective fields.
We hope to foster a space that promotes authenticity, inclusivity, and restoration for our listeners while exploring the intersection of our personal and professional lives.
This project is a culmination of our lived experiences as young Black professionals to transform our life trajectories, to overcome adversity, and reach triumph.
Our intention is to inspire you on your path to discovering your purpose. Well, welcome, Brandon. We are so grateful to have you on season 3 of Identity Unboxed as our first guest for the season. You are a licensed realtor at the agency, host of Basically Brandon podcast, and you were also featured in Netflix's Buying Beverly Hills, which I highly recommend for our listeners to watch. And today we are going to be covering Behind the Gates, being Black in luxury real estate. And just a little biography for all of our listeners. Brandon was born in Phoenix to an entrepreneur and healthcare professional. Brandon has always had a passion for fine homes, interior design, and architecture. He says, I distinctly remember going to the grocery store with my mother as a child and taking all of the free real estate magazines. I would analyze every home and circle the homes that I would dream of one day purchasing. The strong passion for real estate would materialize later in life. As life progressed, Brandon fell in love with the arts and studied as a classical musician and dancer, performing multiple seasons as a principal dancer for the NBA and WNBA. Brandon has worked for over 15 years in the private health insurance industry for Fortune-ranked companies, beginning in customer service and working his way through the ranks to upper management by his early 20s. Tasked daily with coaching, empowering, and creating a positive culture for a team of 20-plus members, as well as being a subject matter expert for company products, Brandon learned to be quick on his toes and think outside the box to maintain consumer client satisfaction. In 2010, Brandon relocated to Los Angeles, where his passion for real estate was reignited. He began to study the various city neighborhoods and what makes each unique as far as market value, architectural styles, and proximity to the amenities of Los Angeles. Brandon's commitment to his client satisfaction is the fuel for his business. And he also says, my interactions with my clients aren't transactional. For most people, a purchase is also an emotional investment. And you manage emotions by communicating realistic expectations, which then builds trust. When not servicing his clients, Brandon enjoys tennis, fashion, traveling with friends, and returning home to Arizona to visit his family. And with that very long introduction, can you take us back to the moment when you decided to pursue a career in real estate and what the catalyst was for this decision?
I need to shorten my bio. That's intense, but it's all true. I have lived a lot of life. So yeah, as far as real estate, I have always loved real estate, but I was very intentional about where I wanted to land as far as like in the market. I wanted to land in the luxury space. And I say this a lot to my peers. I don't believe that you have to start at the bottom. I believe that you can start in the middle as long as you're humble and willing to work. So I came into real estate full time and during the pandemic, which was about 5 years ago. But before that, I had my license for about 2 to 3 years already. And I was just sitting and waiting for the right opportunity. Like I said, I was just waiting to get in at the right space. I tried to do things on my own, but I had no idea what I was doing. And I felt like it would be best for me to work with a top producing professional. So I sat back and I continued working my insurance job and I just waited for the right opportunity and everything just kind of materialized during the pandemic. And that's when everything kind of switched for me. And I can get into all that whenever, but that's when the switch happened for me.
That's great. Yeah, I was going to ask you a little bit about that point you mentioned when you said you don't believe that you have to start at the bottom. And I imagine like just the entryway into real estate is very high, particularly for Black real estate agents. And then getting into like the luxury space, I imagine that's a whole nother realm. And so like, how was that transition for you? Or how did you set your sights on thinking, I'm going to go to like the top of the top for real estate?
First, it starts with doing my homework. I would always look at like on Zillow and Trulia and see what's happening in the neighborhood. And I noticed that it was always the same agents that had the big listings. I said, okay, I need to get where they are. That's exactly where I need to go. And then eventually I discovered the agency and what they were doing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Los Angeles or not, but it's kind of broken down. I was living in the Valley, which is a little deeper out, and the agency in Beverly Hills is a little more in the city. So it was learning a different market, but I feel like as long as you're passionate about something, like you can learn anything. So the moment that I had the opportunity, it happened during the pandemic. I'll go through it very fast, but it's kind of a really good story. I had been in Los Angeles for about Sheesh. Over 10 years at that point. I originally came as a dancer. I stopped doing that. I was just working my insurance job, which was okay. Was I passionate about it? No. Was it paying my bills very well? Yes. So I just kind of stuck with it until I could find the next thing. The pandemic rolled around. My lease on my apartment also happened to be up. So it was just a moment of me having to make a decision. What am I going to do? You've been here for 10 years, plus you're not really doing what you came here to do. Maybe it's time to go home. So I started lining up positions at my company that I was at the time. And I went home. I packed up my stuff. I put it in storage here in Los Angeles because something told me that I wasn't done. So I went home temporarily for about 3 months. And during that time frame, I ended up getting an email from an agent at the agency named Kevin Stewart, who you guys saw in buying Beverly Hills with me. He emailed me. He said, "Hey, are you still looking for assistant work?" And I didn't know he was with the agency or anything. This was something that I had applied for maybe 8 months prior that I totally forgotten about. So I ended up saying, yes, I'm still interested. And we hopped on a Zoom just like this. And 2 weeks later, I was back. I had signed a lease and I was back in LA 2 weeks later, like, and back to it. And I jumped into real estate. I was still doing my insurance job at the same time, working with Kevin and doing my deals. I had like a hotspot in my car for Wi-Fi. I don't know how I was able to do that. I have no idea. If you ask me now how I was able to do that, I have no idea. But when there's a will, there's a way. So I started selling, and I was selling and had clients within 6 months. I was able to quit that job, and maybe 2 months or so later, they asked me to be on the show. It was a very, very fast,
That
very
sounds
fast.
like such a whirlwind. And it's almost
Yeah.
like, you knew inherently that this was your path, it seemed like.
Mhm.
And you decided at that moment when you were in the insurance job that you were feeling a little bit stagnant and that you wanted to
Mhm.
continue to push for your actual dream, which it seems like is the real estate. But I was going to ask you, like, how did you get in touch with, the agency being like such a prominent real estate firm, and just kind of like what that looks like for folks that are trying to make their way in an industry where
Mhm.
there's not a lot of representation? I know you
Yeah.
mentioned like you had applied and then you just got that email, but had you been
Mhm.
making connections like in LA for a while, or just like building community? Oh,
I
wow.
just
Okay.
I applied for that job blind. I knew what the agency was. I didn't know that particular requisition was for somebody at the agency. So it just happened to line up that way. But I mean, I was out and about, just like I would go to open houses on the weekends and like meet with other agents. They really didn't take me seriously. And it's funny because now I see those agents at the deal table, and now they're like, "Oh, I remember you." I'm like, "Yeah, I remember you too. You weren't very nice to me." But that's a sidebar.
And you're
But
like, and I won't forget you. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And some of those agents are at my company. I'm like, "Oh, okay. I remember you. I remember you weren't very kind to me. Hello." But but yeah, I just kind of just did my research. That's the most I can say. I was out, I was in the field, I was learning who people were, what they did, and who did things at a high level. That was the key for me. And then I just started trying to plug myself into those areas. Yeah.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask because I know you mentioned that in like the luxury zip codes, a lot of those agents were the same when you would look on different websites. Can you tell us more? Did you experience any like gatekeeping or obviously any barriers to getting into those circles? Because you mentioned that some people weren't very kind to you on the way
Mhm.
up. So did they kind of try to like shut you out of that industry a little bit?
I think that people like when you have an open house and another agent comes through, they're just like, "Why are you here? Do you have a client?" Like they don't really take you seriously. And when you say that you're new, they're like, "Okay, well, good luck to you. I'll see you in 6 months." It's very much that, very much. And as a black man, it's a whole different thing. It's like, okay, well, we'll see what you're gonna do. Let's see if I see you again. That's kind of the vibe that I got from people, even though they didn't necessarily say anything. It was very dismissive in the interactions that I would have. Yeah, and I didn't know like what that was based on, if that was just me being new, if that's me being black. I just knew that I did not really feel welcome vibes. But something like that doesn't really mean anything to me because I'm going to do it regardless. I am a delusional Sagittarius.
Yeah. And that's sometimes what you need. And he's also John's Sagittarius. Yeah.
So
Well,
I totally understand you. We're
mhm.
optimistic and we do not give up. If we have a goal, we're gonna get it regardless.
Yeah,
So
if I want to open a bee farm tomorrow, I'll do that.
Exactly, exactly. Well, it sounds like you were really like diligent when it came to approaching your work, and that, like you said, you were going to the open houses, you were working your full-time job at the time until you were able to get yourself off the ground and like really build up a client base. And so I think,
Mhm.
that's really inspiring for folks to hear that like you can just continue to kind of remain steadfast in your
Mhm.
endeavors and that it will materialize. It's interesting just to hear, like you had mentioned, that you continued to fill your free time with just pursuing this passion, and that like
Yeah.
going to those open houses, like that also was kind of the entry point for you, even if people weren't as welcoming. But hopefully now you can be that person for folks that when they do come into these spaces, you can be welcoming, you can be, their resource and also like
Mhm.
provide that mentorship
Absolutely.
for them.
Absolutely. And I make it, I mean, I'm very serious about giving real advice to people, especially people who look like me. And I've been mentoring a few people who've entered the industries, particularly in Los Angeles. And I give them the real advice on what they need to focus on what's real and what isn't, because I've seen a lot already in this industry within my 5 years.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
Los Angeles can be pretty cutthroat. There's a
Mhm.
lot of competition, a lot of people there, fighting for their spot, really.
Absolutely. And everyone knows a real estate agent. Everyone knows one. So the thing is, what separates you from the rest? And I think for me, I've always leaned into like there's only one me and my blackness, even though there is like very, very few in this space, my blackness is my superpower. So I use that. I call upon all of that when I walk into the room and I just that is my strength. And I'm not backing down. I know what I'm doing. I'm passionate about what I'm doing. And that's gonna have to be enough. It's more than enough actually.
I really love hearing that and just that you're so empowered to be your authentic self and to really, express your blackness through your work and just how you show up in spaces. And I was going to ask you, how did you actually uncover that like confidence in yourself? Because I'm sure like there's a little bit of pressure to maybe assimilate in certain ways to get in some social groups or, to get the
Mhm.
connection, to get those referrals. Did you ever face that pressure or like how were you able to, I guess, be able to just show up and like be candid in how you are?
Yeah. I've always kind of been this person. Thankfully, I've had a strong sense of self. And I tell people all the time, I liked my life before I became a public person. So when I come into these spaces, I'm bringing all of that because I like who I am here. So when I invite you, or when the two come together, it's going to have to be me at the forefront. I'm not pretending to be anybody else. And my clients, I mean, they love it. I mean, people from all walks of life, they want the flavor, y'all. Like, let's just be real. They want it, they love it, they get a kick out of it. But on top of that, guess what? I know what I'm doing too. So I may crack a joke and do a little, razzle dazzle here, give you a little bit of that, but I'm gonna bring that right back into the conversation and I'm gonna bring it right back to the negotiation of what we're here to talk about. It all works together. It's gonna have to because that's who I am.
Oh yeah, it's good to bring your own flavor and your personality to your work, especially when you're doing an industry like you, because people want to feel that personal touch to what
Mhm.
you're doing. They want to feel that personal connection. And I know you mentioned that you enjoyed your life before you pursued this endeavor, so you wanted to dive into that a little bit. You studied as a classical musician and a dancer, previously performing in the WNBA and the NBA. So how do you think those experiences prepared you for where you are today?
I think discipline and doing your homework are big things. And practice. I mean, practice as far as like the musicianship. I'm sorry, I'm trying to call it pun that again. I haven't done that in a very long time. But of course, you have to practice in order to be good. And if you want to stand out amongst other people, you have to do your research on who those people are. So I'll say this: before I moved to Los Angeles as a dancer, like I knew who all the top choreographers were. I know who the top working dancers were. So when I came to Los Angeles and I got an agent and I found myself in those auditions with those people, I knew exactly what their strengths were, what mine were, and how I was going to measure up against them. So you kind of have to know who's in the room that you get ready to walk into.
Did you ever
That's
have
how
like any trepidation of moving to LA to pursue the arts? I know that's something too where folks, especially from backgrounds like ours in the Black community, that cannot always, be welcome or something that's encouraged. And so, was
yeah.
that something that you always just desired to do initially, or did you just kind of decide to forge your own way?
Since I was like 18, I would always come for like 4th of July weekend in Los Angeles, and I always loved it. So when I came of age, it was just a matter of the right time and having the money. I was always going to go. No one was going to stop me.
Yeah.
I knew that I needed to experience something else outside of where I was. I knew that there was greater things out there that were greater than my circumstances, and I was going to go find it. And I thought that Los Angeles would be the perfect place for me. It has been. I love it so much. I just love that the freedom that it offers and how you can authentically be yourself. I remember the first time that the first time I went to the grocery store here, I was in the produce section. It was a drag queen getting fruit. Nobody's even looking. It's like, okay,
I love that.
can you pass me the
Yeah.
pineapple? I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Everyone's just like in their own world, doing their own thing and trying to be the best version of themselves. And that's where I needed to be. I think I mean, Arizona is very conservative. And if you stick around that, you can become a little small minded too. And I feel that sometimes when I go back home, I'm like, okay, well, I see why I don't live here anymore. As much as I love everything and I love like where I'm from, but there is a graduation that has to happen in life to reach your highest potential.
Absolutely. I was wondering if you could give any advice to any folks who are early on in their career or have big goals and dreams who want to move or leave their hometown or their environment, but are kind of afraid to take that leap of faith?
Don't be afraid. That is my biggest thing. And have some money saved up. That's a big thing, especially if you're moving to a big city like Los Angeles. You need to have at least a year. And that's it's not an easy thing to do, but you need to have some coins saved up. And most importantly, you have to have the courage to fight for your dreams, and you need to be able to go after it, regardless of people who might hold you back, and understand that that's just their limited experience. People will try to talk you out of things that they haven't done because they don't know how to do it. And I don't really take
Exactly. Yeah.
advice. Yeah, I don't take advice from people whose lives that I don't admire.
Yeah, no, that's such great practical advice. And I love that you
Point
mentioned too,
blank.
like, yeah, the financial literacy aspect too, just like also setting yourself up financially, but to also like be audacious and just continuing to aim for your goals and to not let other people deter you. That's something that we've
Yeah.
seen from like all of our guests on every single episode is that they really just started to like minimize the opinions of others and the perception about what people would think about their path because really your decision should only matter to you at the end of the
Yeah.
day. And you should feel
Be a,
confident in them.
I said, be a little delusional. It's okay.
Yeah, and it's working for you.
Yeah, be delusional, be lofty. Like you can
Yeah.
do whatever. Like as long as you have a vision and you can
Yep.
see the path, then blaze it.
Yep.
It's yours. I
And
mean, the vision is in your heart, so you should go for it, whatever that is.
I love that. Yeah, and be strategic. It sounds like, you used your resources, but you also were like very methodical in like how you planned out your path. You didn't just up and go without any, plan B or backup plan. Like you had the
Yeah.
savings, you had the connections, and you continued to build those. And so that's great.
Yeah. For me, I never really wanted to rely on anybody. So it's important that I had everything in place so that I would not fail. Even though there were moments that I needed people to help me, but for the most part,
Yeah.
I've always been able to support myself. So that's been very important to me.
Yeah,
That's
independence is very important. And your story, it makes me think of other people. You know, they say like Delulu is the Salulu, like be delusional.
Mhm.
I I don't quote me on this, but I think I remember hearing like Taraji P. Henson's story where she wanted this dream so bad and she had like $600 to her name and she just up and drove away. So I want to say to people who, the universe will take care of you. That's my thought. Can be
Yeah.
done. It might be a little hard. There might be some more bumps on the way, but it'll take care.
When I got here, when I first got here, I had a friend who lived here. We ended up falling out. So I moved into what's called like an artist house, which is basically like it was a house with maybe 4 bedrooms. But within those rooms, it was like about 6 sets of bunk beds. That house was full of actors, singers, dancers, all these people who had left their homes in pursuit of something else. And I lived there for way too long. I was there for over a year. I didn't tell my family or anything. My mom thought I was like all set up in a nice apartment. I was not. I was struggling flat out, but I was happy and I knew that that was going to be temporary. But it wasn't ideal. But I lived there for a little bit. There should have been cameras in there, okay? Not
Yeah,
by
I was
Beverly
gonna
Hills.
say
That
that'd
just
be a reality show. They need to
oh,
get that set up. I heard that's normal in LA,
yeah,
right? To have a lot
mhm,
of like people in one house like that.
yeah, it was. Yeah, that was a crazy time. And I can't do that at this big age, but at 25,
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, let's do it.
Who
Yeah,
cares?
that. When I write my book, that's going to be a few chapters.
Yes. Oh, can't wait for when the book is ready. Yeah, and like you said, you had to rough it out for that short term time, but you already had your sights set on where you were going, and so you already knew
Yeah.
you're going to be able to ascend that.
Yeah, you just have to understand that those situations, those hiccups, not even a hiccup, but those situations are temporary. When you
Yeah.
have a goal, you have to understand that those what you seen are low moments. It's temporary. Temporary
Yeah.
was a year in that aspect, but still temporary.
And it's so great that you share that story. Like, I think it's very valuable to for people to know what you had to endure to get where you are, because they may just see you on Buying Beverly Hills, which is how I initially discovered
Hmm.
you, and think like, oh, he's just, found his way here and there weren't any bumps.
No,
But you
no.
clearly show that there were some.
Yes, it's not all glamour, honey. It took me
Yeah.
my story to getting on that TV screen that you saw me at. It's been a long road. I've lived a lot of
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. Well, moving forward just a little bit, we wanted to talk more about you being in a predominantly white industry. And according to the U.S. Census Bureau and data reported by Data USA, 78.5% of the real estate brokers and sales agents workforce were white. Only 6.28% were Black. In a survey administered by the National Association of Realtors in 2021, reported by the New York Times, the median sales volume for white real estate agents was 1,998,000, while the median sales volume for Black agents was 474,500, which is a glaring discrepancy. Can you share your experience navigating a predominantly white industry as a Black man and any particular adverse experiences you have been faced with? And I know you already mentioned some earlier, but if you have like
Mhm.
any particular situations you'd like to dive into further, please feel free.
Yeah, but first, those numbers are staggering, and I'm happy to report that I am in the green as far as the average sell point. but that is that's
Yay.
from being in that's from being in California. But yeah, I'm blessed to be on the other side of things. But it's not easy. Like we have at the agency, we have sales meetings every Tuesday, and some I maybe go once a month. But when I walk into that space, it's nothing but white people. That's it. And it gets frustrating. I mean, I love my peers. I love my colleagues, and I've never felt any tinge of racial or anything. Like it's a very collaborative and supportive environment. But it's weird to walk in a room and not see many people who look like you. It's just odd, and it's frustrating at times. It's very frustrating at times. And when I get a new colleague that's black, I cling to them. Hey, or like if I see somebody out in the wild, I'm like, where do you work? Give me your number. Like, what company are you with? Like, we're in this together. I'm sorry, what was the question again? I started ranting.
No, it's okay. This is
Yeah,
all great because I feel like Brad and I can definitely speak to that
yeah,
aspect as well of like walking into a room and just seeing yourself as like the only, which is very
yeah.
isolating in many ways. But yeah, like any particular, I guess, like adverse experiences of like discrimination maybe you've experienced or
Yeah.
yeah, just like subtle, I guess, subtle ways that you felt maybe excluded, or if you could just dive into that, how you've overcome it.
Yeah, I can give you a few examples of this. Okay, so I have a big house that I'm in escrow on right now. It's actually closing on Wednesday. It's going to be my biggest deal yet. Multi-million dollars. So
Congratulations.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So when you're representing a buyer, part of the buying process is to do inspection. So you have all the vendors come through. You have a general inspector, an electric, a sewer, an HVAC. All those people. So I had this done. And when these things happen, like those people, when they're done with their findings, they're to report to me so I can tell my buyer what's happening. At the inspections for this current house, I'm there and I notice the inspectors like they're going up to the listing agent and like telling him everything. I'm like, what's happening here? So I had to say, hey, you guys can direct everything to me. I'm in control here, and I'm paying you. So I don't know. I don't know if that's like a racial thing, but it's like I feel like they weren't used to seeing somebody like me in charge.
Assumptions,
It was
what
an
it sounds
assumption.
like.
I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
nobody's going to talk to me today. Let me make it known that I'm in charge today. And then I have a listing that I have on the market, which I have an open house for later today. And this might have just been in my head, but I felt it sad that I even had to think this way. So I had a listing that I've been preparing. Oftentimes, like most days, if I don't have clients, I'm usually work from home. And I look like this. Like I'm in hoodies, I'm in sweats, and if I have to like run an errand, of course, if I have a client, then I'll get dressed up, I'll do my thing. But if it's an admin day and I'm running errands or something, this is what I look like. I have a listing. I was running around running errands. My client just happened to call me out of the blue. He says, "Hey, can you go and replace the lockbox?" And I'd only been to this listing a couple of times, and I was with him. So this was during the day. I was like dressed really chill. But when I get there, like the neighbors and the way that it's set up, like the neighbors can see you very well. So I'm trying to do my thing and get everything done the way it needs to be done. And I see these neighbors like kind of like glaring at me and very much checking out to see like what are you doing there? Like what's happening over there? And a neighbor knocks on the door. She's like, "Hey, is everything okay in there?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, is there something wrong? Is there something there's something that I'm not aware of. Like, what's happening? Is everything okay with you? Like, everything's fine with me. I haven't asked for any help. I haven't heard any screams. Like, what do you mean? Is everything okay?" She's like, "Oh, I haven't seen you before." And me, like, I'm very quick on my toes. Well, I've never seen you before either. Who are you?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
so we're both strangers. What's your name? My name is Brandon. I'm the listing agent here. How can I help you? Oh, can I come in and see make sure everything's okay? No, you can't. No.
Can't believe that. I don't even want to say that I can't because like you're mentioning something that I think many Black people feel when we're in spaces
Hmm.
where we've been historically excluded and people don't
Hmm.
think we belong, even though they don't say it explicitly. And that, you had to prove your qualifications to even be there, like having to explain that
Yeah.
you're a listing agent. You shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't
Yeah.
have to invite this person in so they can feel safe that you're in their neighborhood because
Yeah.
apparently they don't feel like you should be there. And that's something that like we carry. It's just a burden
Hmm.
in daily life. Like when we walk outside, like you said, that's how you dress. You're wearing a hoodie, you're wearing a cap, you're wearing, just regular tennis shoes. And if
Hmm.
some of your white colleagues do the same thing, no one would blink an
And,
eye. But because you're
and
a
they
Black
do.
man, and they did
And they
exactly.
yeah, and I've
Yep.
seen them do it, which is why. So I was thinking to myself, man, should I dress a different way? Like, should I have gone home and changed? But I'm like, no, I can show up just like this, like anybody else. If they want, they can Google the address and see Brandon Graves standing right there, or look at the sign outside that says my name.
Yeah.
Like
And you
I
shouldn't
have
have
nothing
to.
to prove. Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to dress up and prove that you should be there like you said. And I think it's so imperative that you share these experiences because I don't think many folks know that that's what we're enduring when we go to work
Hmm.
every day, like being in a white workspace. Like even if they make you feel included, like you said, your colleagues are so nice to you, like they're welcoming, they're supportive, they've mentored you. But it's those experiences where you're going into the communities and they don't want you there because that's history, that's what they've been told, and a lot of
Yeah.
that's been ingrained in people, and so they continue to project that out onto others, even if it's just implicit bias. But I'm going to let Brad share because I'm sure he
Yeah.
has a lot to talk about this.
Yeah. And the thing is, my peers, they never have to experience this. So oftentimes I don't share these experiences with them because I know that they can't relate. So I tend to internalize a lot, which is probably not healthy, but it's just like, damn, this is another day being Black in America, you know?
Exactly. It's so annoying to be pressed and questioned like that because it literally costs $0 to mind your business. And if nobody's bothering you, I don't know why you feel the need to question somebody. And I can
Yeah.
definitely relate to you. I remember at work, one of my first work experiences, I dealt with a lot of that racism. Someone told me that my hair was jarring and things like that when I wear my braids. And you mentioned you're a Sagittarius, and one thing about us is we don't like being told what to do. So
No,
after that, I was like, oh,
no.
okay. I started showing up to work in my do-rag. I was wearing sweats. I was like, okay, I'm going to show you ghetto and jarring since you want to, and I'm going to still get the job done in my do-rag and all my
Right.
blackness, and you're going to have to deal with it.
You know what? And you're so right. We hate being told what to do. I'm working on that. I'm really working on it, but I hate being told what to do. My God. That's how I work for myself. But yeah, they will try you, but we just have to keep smiling and rise above. I try to like, you know what, that's that person's ignorance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's your ignorance and your limited experience. And I hope you have a good day. And I'm gonna combat you as I'm gonna look you in the face. I'm gonna shake your hand. I'm gonna send you on your way, baby. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Let me know if you need anything else. I'll be here.
Right.
I told that lady I'll be here Saturday and Sunday. You can stop by and see the house then. Goodbye.
Yep. And you're like, and I will be selling it, and I will be
Shut the door. Exactly. Bye. I said I'll be open Saturday and Sunday 1 to 4. Check it out then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was just gonna ask you though. You mentioned like you internalize a lot of these experiences, which I think is like that's probably pretty common amongst most Black people in white workplaces. I know I've done that in the past, and also growing up in a prominent white town as well. Brad and I grew up in Olympia, Washington, which it's predominantly white town. Some parts are more conservative and liberal than others, but we were often like the only in many spaces. And I was just going to ask, like, do you have an affinity with the other Black agents? I know you mentioned like you see some of them out. Have you all created maybe like a support group to come and talk about these experiences? And like, I don't want to say educate your colleagues because we shouldn't have to do that, but I feel like your colleagues should know about this so that they can be allies and they can confront the discrimination and the bias that you all are experiencing, and join in that collective movement to make real estate, I guess that luxury real estate type of industry more inclusive, I guess, and equitable for folks like us.
I mean, I would like to do something. Well, I'll say at the agency, we don't have that as of yet. I'll give a kudos to Compass, which is another company. They have like a group called Black at Compass. And I've seen like the things that they're doing, but I want to do something for all of the agents overall in Los Angeles, just to get us together to share those stories. Actually, I did something like that for season 1 of Buying Beverly Hills, but it did not make the cut. It was a scene. I invited all the Black agents from Los Angeles. We had a discussion about race and discrimination. I thought it was powerful, but you guys did not get to
And
see
they didn't include it. Wow, that would have been so amazing to see, honestly.
I was a little disappointed in that, but that's not the story that they wanted to tell. I was very proud of that moment. But yeah.
Yeah, no, kudos to you. And it's like, it's unfortunate too that like we are having to show up and like do our jobs. Of course, everyone has to work, but like we're also fighting like these systems of oppression and like having to do these grassroots efforts. Like you said, like you coordinated that whole event, which I imagine took quite a bit of work to get all those folks together with the busy schedules and like the discussion topics and like being very vulnerable, like just mentally and emotionally investing yourself in that way for the public too to consume. Like I just can't imagine how disappointing that probably was for you to not see it in the show.
Yeah, there's so many things that I'm just talent on the show. There's nothing that I really have control of, but I felt like something like that, like something so powerful, and people us sharing our stories, especially from at that point I was the only Black on the show. Then Tyler came in season 2. I felt like that's something that we should have been talking about for sure. I think it would have had a stronger message versus other stuff, but that's a sidebar.
Yeah, I feel like that leads perfectly into our next question. So, as one of the few Black agents featured on the show, Buying Beverly Hills, can you share a few examples of mentorship or allyship and how it's contributed to your success? Or also, I know you just mentioned the importance of that one other Black person coming in, having that affinity with folks. Can you speak to that a little bit more and how that contributed to your success?
I think for me to become successful, I had to learn to do things the right way. So when I came into the industry, I started as an assistant. And here's the thing, something as well, which I think is very important. Ego. Check that ego. Because I was an assistant for someone who was 10 years younger than me. Younger.
Right. So you have to have humility in that
Yeah. So
experience.
yes.
Yeah.
So I remember on the drive back to Los Angeles, I'm like, Brandon, check your ego. This is something about to change. Like I felt the weight of the moment. I'm like, something is getting ready to change. So before you step into this world, check your ego, check all of that, and just be ready to learn. So I'll say that the biggest thing for me in being successful now is learning, doing things the right way at a high level from top producers. And then pouring into me and showing me like the right way to do things, giving me that firsthand experience in the industry. I'll tell another story in a second, but that was the best way for me to learn. And me now, I'm dealing with other agents and how they do things. I'm like, well, that's not really how I do it. And I think it's best to learn things at a high level. That way you don't have to correct in the future. And I'll say this, one of the things that really took me over the edge, I'll never forget this day. I was with Kevin. We were doing a showing. This was a guy. He is. I can't give too much information about him because he's a big executive, but he owns a big dating company, like one of the big three, like Tinder, all those. Like he's a big executive for one of those. So I remember I was with Kevin. He at this point he was having me tag along for showings. So I was getting like first time experience with client interactions. So he took me to this house, like a $4 million house. We showed the client it during the day with his girlfriend. He's like, cool, let me see it at night as well. Because clients, so sometimes they want to see like what the vibe is at night, especially if there's like a fireplace and there's lighting and everything. They want to see how it looks at night because it's a whole different vibe. So I remember we came back that same day at night and we were standing in the driveway and the guy's like, write it up. I'll pay for it in cash. And in that moment, I said, okay, I'm all in. I quit my job the next week, my full-time job the next week. But seeing like how readily available people were ready to transact in this world, I said, okay, I need to be all in here. And I jumped in from that point.
That's actually unbelievable. Like in that
Isn't that
moment
crazy?
to know that, yeah, to like also know that people have that much, I guess, access to like
Hmm.
wealth too, which is a whole other conversation, I feel like, because
Yeah.
even like home ownership in our own community is still like very inaccessible. And just like knowing that people do have the like ability or I guess fortune to just to write a check for however millions of dollars that probably costed.
You have no
Yeah. It's
idea
like,
how many clients that I have whose parents are like paying cash from
yeah.
overseas. Like you have no idea. And like when I share these stories with my mom, she's like, well, how come we don't have those experiences? I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for that. And it's so that's something that I'm trying to
How do you
trying to say.
grapple with it? I was going
Yeah,
to
that's
ask
not
about that.
yeah,
Like there's a
yeah,
sense of elitism in that you're
yeah,
having to like confront and it's so like probably foreign to you. And so
yeah.
like what
And
does that feel like?
I've had, you know what, those have been my thoughts lately because I felt like I'm starting to get into this elite space. And at the core of me, that's not who I am. Like I got into this industry because I was passionate about it, but it's kind of like turning into something else. Cause like I have like something happens when I go home on my vacations with my family, like I always seem to like be negotiating a deal, like at that same point. So my parents are sitting there listening to me talking about millions and millions and millions and millions and millions. They're like, who are you? Like, what are you talking about? Like, these are not regular numbers. Like, people don't like have this kind of money. And I've had to dial myself back and say, you know what? They're right. Like, I need to not edit myself, but like, this is not. It's real, but it's like not common, you know. And
Yeah.
this world, this little space that I'm operating within, it's trying to get my thoughts out
No, it's okay. I think like
because
you're
I'm yeah
actively trying to figure out or like sort
yeah
through kind of like this
I'm in
distorted view of the world
yeah
that you've now been kind of enmeshed within.
hmm
Yet that's not where you've come from. And so now you're
yeah
trying to figure out like the confluence of those things and
yeah.
figure out
And
like
who am
where do
I?
I fit? Exactly.
Exactly.
And
That's my biggest thing. Who am I within this space right now? That's what I guess I don't have an answer for that right now because I'm trying to figure it out.
yeah.
But it's been important for me to maintain who I am and where I come from and marry that with where I am now and
Yeah.
understand that there's a lot of people who cannot do these things. Like this deal that I'm closing next week, client, his parents bought it cash. And it's like this isn't common. And
Typical for many
yeah,
people. Yeah.
I have to keep my expectations real and
Hmm.
in perspective. So I'm
Yeah.
actually working through that right now and with my therapist because it can be
Yeah.
a lot sometimes. It can be a lot. And I've consciously, I say within the last year or so, even since we've paused filming the show, I've consciously come back into my life more. And I don't like, I haven't been going to the office a lot. I've been just trying to be back into my life, into my rhythm with my friends, with the people that with not to say those people aren't real, but like a little more grounded, you know? And I'll also say that my clients that are wealthy, they are nice, very nice people too. They just happen to, to have something that happened and their business took off. So it's not like that these wealthy people are like mean or anything. They just have different circumstances. So that's the common thread that I see through everybody. Like everyone's working hard and trying to be the best that they can. And some people just have had a different opportunity. Yeah. I hope that
Absolutely.
answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know before you mentioned like checking your ego and staying humble. And I realize a lot of people, it's like a common experience, especially when you come from humble beginnings. It's easy, like once you get into these upper echelon circles, to kind of lose yourself or lose who you once were because the people you're around changes. You see how they act and operate. And then you essentially, it's often you become who you're around. And so it's easy to
Yeah.
lose yourself and forget your roots. And you mentioned, going to therapy and also having those moments when you go back with your family and like reconnecting with them. And so I was wondering if you could speak to any strategies or your journey in remaining grounded and humble and trying to always center yourself back to who you were and remember where you came from now that you've reached this like pinnacle of success and it's only getting bigger.
Yeah. I just think about the little boy from Phoenix. I think about my family. I think about like pushing my family's story forward and like how I was able to put my family's name on a global platform. I just think about like how far I've come, and that pride keeps me humble, if that makes sense. I think about the little boy who had a dream, who would just go into the grocery store with his mom and picking up those free magazines, and how he's now this successful realtor now. And it's like, wow, you have the power to do whatever you want in your life, you know? And if you work hard and focus on something, you can make it too. And that's the message that I give my nephews. Now, I have a nephew who just graduated high school. I'm like, what are you gonna do? Whatever your answer is, guess what? You can do it. And if I can do anything to help you along the way, I want to do that. But it's like I think that sometimes, especially like where I'm from, like the only thing really to do is sports. And there's a world out there greater than sports, black men, black
Yeah.
women. I want to say that here. Let's do. I mean, sports are great, but everybody ain't going to the NBA or
Right.
the NFL.
It's
So
a
what
very
else are you?
small, it's like 1%, I think, go to the NFL too. Small
So what
fraction.
what else are you going to do,
Yeah.
baby? What
Yeah.
else are you going to do? And let's start thinking about that now, because don't wait until like you get to the end of college and you have no other aspirations because you never thought about anything else. And
Yep.
it's like, okay, well, who am I? No,
Yep.
you need to be thinking about that now.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's like partly why we created this space too, is just to show people like the exposure to different career pathways, and that like the path is not linear, but that there's more than just these professions that we immediately think of for our community,
Hmm.
because we've seen people be very successful by being in the NFL, being in the NBA,
Yeah.
being rappers, being, what people have made our community out to look like to,
Hmm.
the majority of society, which is what people visualize when they think of us, is
Hmm.
those that are making the
Athletes and
millions, wearing the chains and stuff. So
yeah.
yeah, I think it's like really important that you talk about being like tethered to your family and being so grounded, and that you also know that as you're continuing to find success for yourself, that it's okay to be proud of that success, but that you want to like pull people along with you. And so I feel like that's what I'm hearing from you, is that
Yeah.
that's what you're reminding yourself constantly, like even though I'm here, like that's not a win. It shouldn't be a win that I'm the first person in this position or the first person to win this award, because I think that's what's warped, like as a community. We
Yeah.
think, oh, this is such an accomplishment, but it's like, actually, no, like that shouldn't be something we're celebrating right now, because we should be disappointed that this hasn't been done already,
Hmm.
considering now it's 2025 and like so
Yeah.
many of these doors have been closed on us. And so I just love hearing that you mentioned
Yeah.
that, and yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
My greatest gift, or what my goal is, is to leave the door open for the next person. That's all I wanted to do. And just sharing my story, I wanted to crack the door for the next agent to walk through and to do the damn thing. That's it.
I
And
love it.
hopefully inspire people along the way. That's all I've ever wanted to do.
It's amazing. Great. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, this is great into our next question, which
Yeah.
is, what is one aspect of the real estate industry that you were not aware of or came as a surprise to you once you entered it? And if you could impart one piece of advice to aspiring real estate professionals, what would that be? You kind of talked about this already, but if there's more you want to
Yeah.
share.
I mean, I was aware that I needed to market myself, but I wasn't aware of the different the different ways, and I had to choose like what worked for me, and that took a while, honestly. I think most real estate agents, like they like to do cold calling and like door knocking. And I think you heard me say on the show that I don't do door knocking. You're not going to open a door and call the police on me. I'm just not going to do that. I'm not. I've done it before, and I hated the experience.
So literally, I
Absolutely.
was just going to ask about that too, like
Yeah.
going around and knocking on doors, like that would be, you'd be hyper vigilant in that case.
Yeah, no, I'm not that strong. I can't like I'm not knocking on your door and pitching myself. So I prefer to go the open house route and have people come to me. And then when they walk through the door, that's my moment to bam, to quote unquote perform and to lay it on them and to be charismatic and show what I know and maybe pick up a client or at least give some information. And I picked up a lot of clients by sitting open houses. I've done a lot of deals just by picking up clients who walk through the door who we've had a connection with, and we were able to make a transaction just by showing up and being authentic and and knowing what I was talking about. So that's been going back to marketing and the challenges. That's been the best way for me to do it. It's just to show up. I'm not going to call you, cold call you. Now, if we have a relationship, that's something else. And then also, what's been helping my business right now is relationships and maintaining positive relationships. Like all the deals that I've done this year so far have been from referrals. And that's from people telling somebody about me and having their colleague call me. And to me, that's the highest compliment. Is that I enjoy working with Brandon so much that I want to share this experience with somebody else. He did such a great job for me. I want him to do the same for you. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I've ever wanted. And thankfully, that's where my career is going right now. So my insight is do a good job, do a very good job, so that the next person can refer you to the next. And that's how you network and navigate. Don't just focus on the singular. You want to focus on the singular, but you want to do a really good job so that you can get the next opportunity, and so forth and so forth. Because people talk.
I love that. That's very true. Word does spread and
Yeah.
get around, especially in
Yeah.
certain industries. And I was wondering, you seem to have natural charisma. You're a very warm person. Can you speak more to the importance of authenticity and like building those connections and just being yourself? Because I feel like a lot of times in certain professions, we feel like we have to kind of wear a mask or,
Mhm.
act a certain way and be proper and things like that. And not that Black people can't be proper and professional, but can you speak to the importance of really remaining and maintaining your own sense of self? Because I feel like when you are authentically you and you show your personality, that light just kind of shines through and people can feel that authenticity.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a desire to be anybody else. So that's where, and I'm not in my people pleasing years. I've never really been a people pleaser. Maybe that's just part of the Sagittarius thing. Like I kind of show up as I am. I know that I'm a good person. I know that I have all the faculties in place. I'm a healed person. I constantly work on myself. So I know that I'm showing up to the situation, presenting my best self. And that's going to either be good enough for you or it's not. And I'm not, and this goes for romantic relationships too. It's like I kind of am who I am. And I am looking to improve on that on times, but you're gonna have to meet me where I'm at and we'll take it from there. And if we can't meet each other at a base level, then we probably don't have much to talk about. And I'm not afraid to walk away from people as from a business perspective that I don't gel with. I'm fine with that. And I have done it before.
I love that. Yeah, it sounds like you're just very assured in yourself. And also, I was hoping you'd be able to talk more about kind of your experience going into therapy or just like what that decision looked like because, we do implore all of our listeners to focus on their entire lives. Like we're multifaceted folks outside of our jobs and that sometimes we can burn ourselves out because we want to, be successful and prove that we should be in those rooms. But how did you
Mm.
like make that decision to decide to go to therapy and like really commit to your wellness outside of work?
For me, it's because I needed to marry my old life with my new life because everything happened so fast for me. So it was important for me to remain connected to who I was and where I was now. And it got to the point where I kind of felt like I was losing me because I was on this new show, I had a new relationship, I had this new job. Everything was new so fast. And it's like I mean, I'm not complaining, but when things happen that way so fast, at least for me, I struggled with maintaining my identity and not, becoming who people thought I should be and projecting this image on TV that and people are like, oh, well, you don't have this, you don't have that. Well, guys, I'm like, well, I'm working towards it. You're watching me do it. And if you're paying attention to the story, then hopefully you're going to be inspired that way.
That's great. Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
I appreciate how vulnerable you are too explaining that because it even just sounds like how expeditiously like things started taking place for you. Like that would
Mm.
definitely be very jarring just to like
Yeah.
be in that ambiguity and try to figure out, okay, like where do I actually go from here? Like this is so new to me. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's great you talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's great when people like walk up to you and say hello and all that, but it's like, this is so weird. Like, I'll say, like, the day my show came out, like, I'm a pretty good neighbor, but I don't really talk to everybody. The next day my show came out, 5 people in my building knew my name. That's
That's
how
actually
scary.
wild. I
Isn't that
would not want
scary?
to be a celebrity. I can't imagine it. Like
It
even just
was,
like being public because you're
yeah.
like, who knows me here?
Yeah, and it's like,
Yeah,
whoa, wow, this
right.
is kind of crazy. And then I went to my Starbucks that I go to every day, and they're like, "Hey, you're that guy."
No way. That's so funny.
Yeah, and it was like immediate. So it's just
Hmm.
like not having the pressure to like. I think I felt some kind of pressure to perform, but that's what I needed to go into therapy for, just to marry the two and to make sure that I was still centered and that I was still the person that my friends and my family know me to be, not some a hole that's like now a public
Personality
person.
on
Yeah,
TV.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I can only imagine, when you reach that level of fame, you have a lot of eyes on you. There's, like you said, that pressure to perform, and people may have some preconceived notions just because they see you on TV that you might be rich or live this luxurious lifestyle, and you might feel the pressure to kind of live up to that image. So I was wondering if you could
Yeah.
speak a little bit more to how you've been comfortable, owning where you're at the moment in the present and showing like I'm on a process of growth and evolution.
I mean, for me, I mean, I think that especially when you see people on, I think a lot of people pretend these days. Everybody's pretending, everybody's showing you their highlights. And when I decided to do the show and like show people who I am, I wasn't going to go out and rent a car. I wasn't going to do any of that stuff. You're going to see is somebody who's new in an industry, working hard and climbing the ladder. And if we stick around long enough, you'll see me get all the things, the quote unquote things that you think I should have, And guess what? I got them now. And even though the show isn't coming back, like it's like there's a ladder to climb. Everyone has a ladder, and everyone is not at the top. And it's important that you share your story so that people can be inspired as well and forge their own path. And for me, I knew that there were going to be people, mostly people that look like me, watching me. So I wanted to show people that this is what it looks like. Especially if you're starting out new in the real estate industry, you don't start out selling $20 million mansions. You don't have pay. Well, maybe you have a parent that's like giving you something to sell, but for the most part, you are dedicating your time every single weekend, open houses every single weekend. You have no life. You're starting from the bottom and you're scrapping it out. So that's what I wanted to show, like an amateur trying to become a professional. Yeah.
Absolutely. I feel like, speaking of sharing your story, you created your
Yeah.
podcast, Basically Brandon, in
Mhm.
2023. What did that endeavor mean to you, and what do you hope to share with that platform?
Basically, Brendan is an interesting space because I need to figure out what the voice of it is. So I've kind of paused that for now. So initially, I just wanted to share that as a space to connect and like for people to get to know me outside of what they saw on TV. Just, me sharing more of myself, more of my day to day, of how I keep myself motivated, my friends that I have in my life, the people who empower me, and and just some sort of entertainment as well. What I quickly learned is that I'm somebody like if I'm not passionate about something, I'm probably not going to be doing it for very long. And I don't really care about like pop culture like that. So me talking about that every week, good luck. And I tried to do it and it just didn't work because there was no value in that. I want to add some kind of value. So basically Brandon is being revamped into something greater, but the goal is to inspire and to just show people to remain diligent and to not give up. Whatever it is, don't give up.
That's so great that you share like the process too, because even
Yeah.
initially, if you start out something and you think, oh, this is what I want this space to be, and it turns out it's going to evolve into something else, that's okay. And I think we
Yeah.
should normalize that, like readjusting, like you said, rethinking, putting things on pause instead of always making everything a crash course. Like for us,
Yeah.
it's really important with this project. Like we've been very intentional to take breaks. Like we just came off of a 6 month break, right, Brad? For
Mhm.
yeah, season 3. And so we were like, what do we actually want to do? Like, who do we actually want to speak to? Why do we want to do this? And like really breaking things down just to like be able to communicate that more effectively to folks. And so, yeah, I love hearing that. Like, it sounds like you're being intentional with what you're planning to do with it. And it's great that you just, you started it and you got it off the ground already.
Yeah, I live by the word pivot. I'm not
Yeah.
afraid to pivot, and come back to something. I'm not afraid to pause, get some information, come back and come back better. I've done that several times in my life. And I tell people all the time, don't be afraid to pause and pivot. Just don't quit. You can pause and you can pivot, but just don't quit. Just get more
That's a
information and come back to it.
Yeah, that's like a really critical trait too. I feel like with successful leaders is that adaptability is very important and
Mhm.
knowing when to make those pivots and what that looks like. So that's
Mhm.
great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and then just moving forward, I know you spoke about growing up in Arizona and kind of just finding your way, but if you could reflect back on your younger self as a young Black boy from the position you are in today, what words of wisdom would you share?
That's
And
a good
take your
one.
time with this one.
When I feel like sometimes when I say I've always like felt this way, it comes across as if like this like grandiose person. But I think a sense of self is important. A strong sense of self is important, and I found a way to give that to myself at a very young age, which I'm grateful for. So I think establishing a strong sense of self and a solid core and a belief system, and whatever that is for you, I think that's very important because when you go into I'm going to tie this back into what I would say to my young self. Because when you go into different situations and you don't have that, that's when you become very vulnerable and negative things can happen. So at the baseline, you need to have a solid foundation of who you are, what you believe in, and what you don't. And I've always had that from a young age. Like I've always been pretty outspoken. I've always said exactly what I believe. Stick up for others. I say what's right and what's wrong. And I compliment things that I like too. I don't, some people just tell you, I don't like that. I don't like that. No, I also double back and say what I also enjoy as well. So what I would say to myself as a younger person is just stick with that. That core thing within you, within your soul that kind of guides you, stick with that. It's going to take you far. And in all the negative things that happen along the way and the people that tell you no, understand that that is just their limited experience and you can do whatever you want and just continue on your path. And pretty simply, that's really it for me, because that's what I realized that I've done is I stay connected to that young guy, and I've just kind of expanded on the dreams that he's had for himself. I thought it was going to be like a dancer long term. I came here, I did that. I never wanted to say like, what if I never pursue dance? I'm not a what ifer. Number one, don't do the what ifs. If it's in you, do it. You don't want to look back on your life and say, what if I had done it? Even if you fail, do it anyway. Who cares? Just try, do it and try. So I came to Los Angeles. I became a dancer. I've always wanted to be a real estate agent. That young boy going to the grocery store with his mother is now this person that I am today. So it's just maintaining that connection for me is important. Whatever that thread of joy, I guess is what I'm getting to. Whatever the things that brought you joy, find a way to maintain and grow that. That's what's important to me.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's so cool that you stay connected to who you were and your inner child, because I feel like when we are at a young age, it's like we kind of know who we are. But as we get older and we start navigating the world, it's like people's insecurities, they project those onto us.
Mm-hmm.
Are kind of told to fit in a mold of what you should be and what you should do based on societal expectations. And it's so cool that you always knew who you were and you were outspoken and you stayed centered. And I know you said, oh, this might sound grandiose, but I think it's so funny that I feel like oftentimes in society, when people are self-assured and they know who they are and they're empowered and they're confident, a lot of people view that as, oh, they're so full of themselves or X, Y, and Z, and they cast all their own judgments. But really, I feel like sometimes that could be a projection of other people's insecurities, because a lot of people lose touch with, a lot of people lose touch with who they are and their passions and their spark, and they don't walk in that confidence. So when they see someone like you who knows what they want, they're a go-getter, they're confident, who, they see how you walk, how you talk, it just your being, that can kind of be intimidating to some people, and they judge you when they don't really know you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I get that a lot, but I just try to offer grace, because what I'm really trying to do is anything I'm saying for myself and try to empower you too. If you're really listening, you will get that. So I try to like maintain that thread in the conversations. If you're really listening to me, you're not going to be offended. Hopefully, you're going to be empowered.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it sounds too like you maybe have internalized a little bit of that, of like feeling like it's pretentious to say like I'm proud of my accomplishments. And I think that's common for like folks in our community to think that, it's not okay to be proud of our accomplishments. At least I know for me, it's felt like that, where, humility is emphasized a lot, that you shouldn't, talk about your accomplishments or, your successes, and it can make other people feel like they're not doing enough. But that shouldn't really be a concern of mine. Like if I'm willing to help people and I'm, mentoring, and I'm, being altruistic in how I show up in the world, like that should inspire them, like you said. And so if they're really listening and they're understanding where you're coming from, they'll see that, and they'll
exactly. I appreciate that. You are so right.
That's great. Yeah. And then just moving forward, we wanted to ask a fun question, because we're sure that you've run into probably some personalities and celebrities in LA, and you may have an ideal client you would like to have. So if you did have a dream client, who would that be and why? I don't know if you can talk about that, but
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna say two things, because I'm working with a celebrity right now, and she's a singer, and she's like iconic, like she's been
we
around
won't
for a
guess.
while.
We won't guess.
Yeah, I can't say.
We don't want to get in
Um,
trouble.
I might be seeing her this week, but hey, I'm such a cornball. Like when I first sometimes like when I first met her, like the second time I tried to like talk about like one of her songs, and she was just like not having it. Yeah,
I love it.
I'm corny in the way like I'll try to like I'll work a lyric into my like presentation. Like aren't you, it's not Beyonce, but like, oh, I'm looking so crazy about this house. Like I'll do like crazy stuff like
That's
like that.
hilarious. I love
Yeah,
that song, by the way.
yeah. So I'll do stuff like that, and she's not having it. So I've learned to calm down and just stick to the facts with her, because they're just people. But I'll say if I had a celebrity client of my dreams, I'd probably be. So I want a big transaction. So I want a big number. So we're gonna go for Beyonce and Jay-Z or Oprah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Oprah. I was gonna say that
Yes.
would be my top two. We love Beyonce, so
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I read not too long ago that Beyonce and Jay-Z had like one of the most expensive home purchases in like LA County history or something like that.
100, 200 Malibu.
What?
I can't even comprehend that number. It doesn't
Yeah.
even. That just seems so like otherworldly to me.
I'm
Like
like,
excellence.
can I rent a room? They wouldn't see me at all.
That's a wing.
Yeah.
You don't even need a room. room. You could rent a wing and they would see ya.
Exactly, and
That's
they
so
already
wild.
have and they have like a $65 million place in Bel Air. That's their main residence.
Wow.
So that's a vacation place. Isn't that
Yeah,
crazy?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. I'm sure they
So
have
I,
many homes that we don't even know about.
yeah, so I'll take that. I'll be happy to help them with their next purchase. Maybe for Blue when she's of age. I'll be
Yeah,
around still. She can do that. I'll get her
right.
a place.
I hope
Call
that
me
they reach
B.
out to you at some point.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was my goal of doing buying Beverly Hills for people to see
Yeah.
me and call me, and
Yep.
thankfully that has happened.
They will. They will. I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah, I hope this doesn't sound creepy, but a few years ago when I was in LA, like I was with my friend and we were like just driving through like the hills looking at these expensive houses, just daydreaming, and I was like, I know Beyonce, Jay-Z live up here. I just want to see the gate. And we kind of drove
Mhm.
by their gate.
Did you find the gate?
Found the gate. I found the gate.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're still in that house because they moved to Malibu,
They,
but yeah, I found the gate.
yeah.
We were like, wow, it must be nice.
I have a friend who knows their exact address for that gate, and he drives by every
That's
time
so
he comes to
wild.
Los Angeles. He's like, "Oh, are they
Wow.
still there?" Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Yeah, they're still there."
Oh my gosh. That's
That's
so
funny.
cool.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, yeah, we hope that for you and that you can make a sale for them.
Yes, I'm manifesting it. I've learned
Yes.
that I'm a powerful manifestor, so I'm going to manifest that too.
You are. Because it's worked so far. So I think it'll happen.
It has.
It's going to happen. We're speaking it into existence and closing a big sale. Hopefully, you get one of them big sales. In a demanding career that works non-traditional hours and is reliant on commission, how do you prioritize your overall wellness?
I have learned to create strong boundaries with my clients because if you don't, they'll touch you at 10 o'clock at night asking questions. And I've had some of those clients, and I just shut it off after 5 o'clock. I'll be honest, depending on what it is. But if it's something like deal specific, we're at the end of the business day. Nothing
It
I can
can
do
wait till
now.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
It can
it's
always wait.
gonna have to wait until tomorrow. I have a tennis lesson at 7. It's gonna have to wait until tomorrow. Yeah. So I think having strong work boundaries has been important for me. I learned early on that if you let people run all over you, they will. So you have to. I mean, there's a respectful way to say no, and I'm comfortable doing that. Or no,
That's so important.
or not at this time. You know,
Yeah.
let's talk about
Right.
that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sometimes
No, and
I'll say like, oh, I'm at dinner right now, and at nobody's dinner. But I'm like,
right.
oh, I'm at dinner right now. Can we talk about this tomorrow? Something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And like you
Yeah.
said, people will take advantage of you if you don't set the boundaries. And like
Mhm.
if you have permeable boundaries that people, feel that they can just push and push and push, they will do
Mhm.
that. And so then your life
Mhm.
will be consumed by work. And so I think that's so critical that you talk about that and, just express that it's okay to say no. And you don't even have to give an explanation. Like it's very nice that you do that, and you want to
No
make
is
your
no.
clients feel recognized and of course that you value them, but also like you have a life as well.
Very
Important.
important. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. I swear by that. I believe in strong boundaries in all aspects of my life. If
that's
I'm not
great.
comfortable, if I'm not comfortable, but if it's not the moment, then it's not happening. And we can figure out the appropriate time together.
Yeah.
In a career field where it's like based so much on networking and stuff like
Mhm.
that, how do you maintain boundaries with people who may be of like a higher status, like you said? And I know you mentioned before some people like kind of look down to you or were dismissive just because of you were like a beginner. So how do you maintain boundaries
Mhm.
with those people and just be like, just because you're bigger than me and things like that doesn't mean you can push me around?
I wouldn't call myself a great networker. If I'm being completely honest, I tend to just put my head down and do the work. And if I meet you on the way, good. And if, as long as I'm having results, like I'm fine with that. So I mean, I'll go out and I'll mix and mingle, but I don't really, I think had I networked more, I would have had even more success as a dancer. I kind of like let my talent like do what it needed to do. But in hindsight, I wish I would have networked a lot more because I would have had more opportunity. But I tend to just work and just let that be it. So I wouldn't call myself a huge networker. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I just focus on my work and let that be. That's kind of just it.
I
Yeah.
love hearing that. I think there's different perspectives on that too, where, networking for some people that is kind of their, I feel like skill set, but for other people, it is just like letting the work kind of be demonstrative of who you are and like what you can actually do and your capabilities. And, some people feel that networking is transactional and it doesn't seem like you're a transactional person. And so like
No.
for you, it's like you're more focused, it sounds like, on building like community. And like you said, you've gotten referrals from folks that like they actually know you because you've built meaningful relationships that are sustainable over time, not just going to like a bunch of networking events and trying to get as many business cards as possible. And that may work for some people, but that's not always the approach for everyone. This has been really amazing just to like speak with you after, yeah, just hearing your journey and learning about all that you've overcome and, how you continue to be of service to those that you are mentoring, but also, giving back to the community too. And so we would love to hear just a little bit more about how Blackness has informed your journey. I know you talked about that's been kind of integral to, your life and just like even just building your professional career path. But this is a question we ask all of our guests, and it is, what does Blackness mean to you?
My Blackness is my superpower. But my Blackness is my heritage, is my family's family, the long line of people who have come before me. And I'm just trying to do my best to push my family's legacy forward. I've said again, my Blackness is a superpower. It is not a weakness. It's something to be proud of. It is a shield. It is a force, and we are magnetic. And when I step into the room, I'm lighting it up, baby, with all my Blackness, unapologetically.
There you go. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like you said, I know a recurring theme is legacy. Legacy is so important, especially when the doors haven't been open for us and we kind of had to kick them down and like build our foundations from the ground up by ourselves. And so I think it's amazing that, you view your Blackness as a superpower, because it is, and you're building that legacy so that will continue to live on and we can all amplify our superpowers together.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Yeah, I love it. And it's just been, really admirable to see all that you've done for yourself, and that like you really are fortifying space in this industry for yourself and for other Black real estate agents. And so I'm really excited for folks to listen in on this episode. We did have one other real estate agent on before, but we haven't talked about like what the luxury real estate industry was like. And so I think, that will be very interesting and, new to them and hopefully really helpful. But yeah, again, thank you so much. And we hope to stay in touch with you. We do like to stay in community with all of our guests. And so, yeah, we would, be happy to continue these conversations.
Yes, I'd be happy to come back and share some more. I appreciate it. This has been great. You guys are awesome. I can't wait to hear it. Hopefully I answered your questions. I'm a bit of a rambler.
You did so great. No, they were.
But you did a great job. I'm a rambler too, so.
I'm like, what was I talking about again? Oh, let me bring it back again. Okay, here we go.
You gave us so much detail and just all the background. It was really amazing. So again, we're very grateful. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. And this will be airing in the fall, so you will be our first guest for season 3. So we'll keep you posted.
Awesome. Tag me so I can repost and all that. I appreciate it. I can't wait.
We definitely will. All right.
Thank you so much.
Talk to you later, Brandon. Have a good day.
Have a good one. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We deeply appreciate your support as we work to uplift the Black community and explore our unique experiences within the Black diaspora on Identity Unboxed.
Authenticity is your guide to cast an impact on the world that you will be proud of. Signing off with pride, Tiana
and Brad.
Thank you so much.